Why would millions of people's phones give them an SOS message, which prevents someone from making any calls, even to 911? Pharmacies and Change Healthcare, the nation's largest healthcare technology company, are even reporting outages. Is this an EMP attack? Is this predictive programming? The Obama's movie Leave the World Behind comes to mind. What does the Bible say is happening? All of this and more today on the Endtime Show. Welcome to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We're taking your calls. The number to join us is 877-ENDTIME, 877-363-8463. Speaking of SOS messages, supply chain issues could arise amidst a national crisis and food supplies could diminish. There may be a day when you can't even check out at the grocery store due to their dependence on technology, a day much like what we've experienced today across our nation. Go to readypantry.com/endtime to get an affordable 3-month emergency supply of food. They offer amazing 25-year shelf-stable food and includes meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not to mention, you have the peace of mind getting to know you have an emergency supply of food ready for anything from cyber attacks to war. Ready Pantry is an American-based company with all products sourced here in America, and they're offering discounts of up to 20% off for 3 to 12 months supply. So go to readypantry.com/endtime, use code endtime, and save an additional 10% off your order today. Plus, you're going to get free shipping on all orders, so be sure to use the code endtime. Doug, we've survived the EMP attack, or at least so far, or the supposed EMP attack.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people are saying that this could be a dry run for that, to see how America reacts to it. Other people are saying, Vince, that this was, well, I've heard everything from what's it called, a SIM card?
SIM card malfunction, I think you said earlier, yeah.
Yeah, to a server problem, to now I'm hearing that this is solar flares. So, we don't know, but we wanted to present this today to everybody as a way to kind of to look at what's going on around our world and kind of see how things are shaping up and to get you thinking along the lines of what this could be and what it could be like if this was indeed a cyber attack and what could happen because of that. So I know that people are going to think that this is fear-mongering today, probably a little bit, but we're going to look at it from all different angles. We'll look at what happened, and then we'll look at some of the things that could happen in the near future as well.
Well, I guess I would say right out of the gate, we should say this is not fear-mongering. We are not trying to scare anyone. Right. We're going to share facts. We're going to share some stories that have been published even weeks ago, Doug, and explain some of what could be going on, and then we're going to help people see what the Bible says is coming. So our intent is certainly never to scare anyone, as you well know. And so if you find yourself scared, maybe re-listen a little bit or let us know in the comments, because we certainly don't want you to be frightened by anything happening even right now. Doug, when I woke up this morning, I noticed my phone said SOS at the top. Right. And I thought, this house that I'm in is probably causing me problems, and I didn't have any service. And so I thought, well, I'll restart my phone, drive to work. When I get there, it'll probably be fine. Well, I get here, still not fine. And so I had SOS on my phone until I think it was somewhere around noonish or so. Yeah. And apparently hundreds of thousands, millions of people experience the same thing. Yeah. And people are freaking out when they can't scroll through Twitter and get the latest updates.
Well, it just goes to show you what life could be like. I guess a lot of people don't remember what life was like before the internet.
I listened to the radio on the way to work today.
Yeah, there you go. You told me that this morning.
Access to podcasts or anything else.
And we talked about that.
Listening to the radio, 770 AM here in Dallas, which is what we air on.
There you go.
If you're in the Dallas area and you can't get us online, 770 AM is the station to join us on. Yeah. But that's what I did, Doug, and it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, we didn't have this stuff, and so you weren't, used to it. I was talking this morning in devotions, And I was letting everybody know that I used to have to carry a maps go around with me in a vehicle to find addresses. We didn't have GPS, and now people, if you don't have your GPS, you probably can't find your way around. You're not used to learning how you're going. You're used to listening to that GPS tell you where you need to go and what you need to do next. Used to, people would give directions and they say, well, you go up there by the Dairy Queen, you take a right, and you drive down to the Whataburger, and you take a left, and you got directions like that. Well, nowadays we listen to that GPS, and without it, a lot of people were probably lost today. Didn't know exactly where to go or how to get there. So. Absolutely.
Doug, the title of this show is asking if we're under a Chinese cyber attack. Let's, I guess, talk about, there were major outages for AT&T, but not just AT&T,
right.
Verizon, T-Mobile. We're going to show everyone why we're posing the question of could China be involved, but let's go through that, because there are people even in the chat now saying they don't even know what we're talking about. They've had no issue. Some of them are saying, I have AT&T and I have no issue. And so can we just kind of explain how, I guess, what's going on? Of course, I told my story about waking up with SOS, and there's a lot of other people dealing with that. So what's that story all about?
Yeah, so apparently today around 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, AT&T was the first one that was being announced that they were receiving some issues and having some problems. So it was AT&T. It turned out that Verizon Communications, which that's what I have. I didn't experience issues with it, but I know other people who did. And T-Mobile, which is who our internet provider is where we live. And so if we would have been home, we wouldn't have had internet probably because they had so many people. It says that more than 51,000 outages were recorded across the United States. The outages impacted major cities. So San Francisco was one of them, Houston, Texas, of course Dallas, Texas, we know, Chicago, and there's been many more. This was early this morning whenever we started diving into this, and there's been more that's come out since then. But the really scary thing about this were people were not able to access 911 calls. So they weren't able, if they needed help, assistance from the police or fire department, they weren't able to make those kind of calls. And this is a major problem, and this is what I guess most of the scare was for a lot of people. You weren't able to get those emergency services. The thing about it is that this widespread outage, it disrupted regular communications, and it poses that risk to public safety because you're not able to make those kind of calls you need to make. I know I called to try to check on my stepmom because she lives by herself. She's 85 years old, and I wanted to check on her. Well, she has AT&T, so guess what? No signal. It went straight to a voicemail, and I saw later that she posted on Facebook, hey, I'm fine, but my phone's not working. She had no idea what was going on, but she knew people would be trying to reach her because we try to contact her every day and make sure she's okay. And so that kind of situation.
And she's not, I wouldn't say that, I don't think we say that she would be in the Dallas area. No, she's far enough out there where I don't think they claim Dallas out there.
Right.
So it wasn't just the big cities. There's people really all over the United States having problems.
Yeah, because she lives in a rural area out in East Texas. And so, that's the thing is it was really statewide. I think this happened really statewide. And one of the strange things for my wife and I, when we were coming in this morning, we stopped to fill up at Sam's Club. We get gas there because it's cheaper. And normally it's packed. It's, 3 or 4 cars deep when you get there in the morning. And this morning there was nobody there. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, nobody's here. Well, when I roll up to the pump and try to use the card and everything read okay. But when it came to turn the pump on, there was no pump. So I had to cancel transaction and leave without gas. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did because, as you said earlier, Vince, there were other people that were, attacked like this. If this indeed was an attack, we had several different, I think there were cable companies that received outages. There were pharmaceutical companies that received outages. So there's been a wide variety of different things.
And Doug, it kind of highlights our digital dependence.
Yes, it does.
A lot of people, like we said, are freaking out, not just because of social media, but my generation maybe have never been to the bank. You know, they do everything from their phone. They don't keep a checkbook anymore. I'm like, you don't even know what checks are. Like, people are so dependent on, and not just my generation. There's, you know, I've got aunts, uncles, parent. You know, my 82-year-old grandmother is very digital dependent, and so it's really the world that we live in now, and we see that the capabilities that the powers that be have, you know, whether it be on accident or intentional, if an aspect of this digital life that we live is turned off or altered, it really can wreck some people's lives. And so I start thinking about the future and what we see coming in Bible prophecy, and how desperate people are going to be to comply so they can maintain their life, you know, and they're going to say, well, whatever I got to do to, you know, have these conveniences, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, when you think of what could potentially happen with an EMP weapon, it could take out power grids. It could take out things for months, maybe years. We don't even know. And now the military claim that they have a way to combat this, but in the civilian life, there's not a way to really do that. We don't have the technology the military has. The military claims that they, even with an EMP, they would still be able to function as a military, even though a lot of the military is electronic and things. So they obviously have some safety measures put in place. We don't necessarily have that as individuals, but, you know, like we were saying before, some people are reporting that this is a solar flare, but, you know, I mean, there's not, when you think of a solar flare, there's so many different ways that this is being affected. It's like, I'm not sure this was a solar flare instead of a cyber attack. And some people are actually saying that it's a cyber attack.
Well, Doug, and we've got the reports from pharmacies. I mean, there's a bunch of people in the chat, and we've seen it all over social media, that people's prescriptions are being delayed because the systems for the pharmacies are down. So either it's not just cellular, or they're dependent on cellular, which doesn't make sense. So there's also apparently problems with some portions of the medical system here in the United States, and there are people who need their prescription medication that cannot access it right now. So it's bigger than just social media and accessing your bank digitally and all that stuff. This is, we don't really know what's happening yet, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, here's the deal. They've been saying for, I think, 2 years now, since 2022, that the sun was going to start producing more and more solar flares, and it could affect your cell phone usage and things like that. It's almost as if this is a narrative that they're wanting you to get ready for. Vince saying, you know, this is going to happen. And so there's some people out there that, you know, have channels where they put their opinions out about things, and some of them were saying, I know that their go-to is the solar flare thing, but this is much larger. So there's other people looking at this that probably have even different information than we have. But one of the things that someone posted, which we talked about before we came on the program, is last year our senators were issued satellite phones.
May of 2023.
Yeah. And so that's interesting. Because,
just in case.
Yeah, because if you have a satellite phone, it doesn't matter if your cell phone goes down, right? You have communication.
Yeah.
So interesting that they were issued that. I remember we talked about it.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So there's a lot that this could be about. So I don't know where you want to go from here.
Well, I want to ask everybody.
Yeah.
Did you experience the outage? Yes or no? Put in the comments whether or not you were hit with the SOS message on your cell phone, and maybe share your experience there in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, see who all affected from our audience. I do want to remind you before we move forward, First Cup Coffee is a Christian-owned Patriot coffee company out of the great state of Texas. I think Doug's on cup 3 for today, maybe 4.
I think 4.
Maybe 4. They have 11 different roasts, each one named after a specific piece of American history. You can get one of those roasts, ground, whole bean, or even pods for you Keurig machine users, which I do not understand. Nonetheless, go to firstcup.com, use code Endtime to get 10% off. If you subscribe, they're going to give you another 10% off today. So go to firstcup.com, use code Endtime to get 10% off today. Doug, what could be happening?
So you referenced there in the tease today that the Leave the World Behind program that the Obamas produced, Barack Obama particularly, they used his information to feed this movie. Well, remember the movie, we talked about it before, that the first thing that happens is cell phone communications go down. And then from there...
It's on Netflix, by the way.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
I've seen clips, never seen it, but you can, I guess, go watch some of the clips yourself and see how interesting it is that it's kind of like what's happening today.
It's very strange of how coincidental it is of the way it looks. But so they had President Barack Obama give them information about what would happen in a situation like this. He said cell phones would go down first. Then he talked about cargo ships and airplanes, their systems would go down and these things would crash. This happened in the movie, and we go from this cyber attack affecting telephones all the way up to, and I hate to spoil it, but I know how it ends with a bomb going off in New York City that looks like a nuclear bomb had happened there. So you get this nuclear explosion in New York City. At the end of it, it appears that we've gone from a cyber attack to a full-scale war. So I'm not saying that's what's happening here. So y'all hear me and understand that's not what we're saying. We're just saying that it's strange how art imitates life so much, a lot here lately too. But Vince, I think that we have a clip here that I want to show, and I think we've got enough time to show this clip. So this is from the producer of a movie it's a documentary called Grid Down, Power Up, and he is speaking with Fox News. I just want you to hear what he says, and we've sped it up just a little bit. It may sound a little strange, but we did this for time. So check this clip out and see what he says about these attacks.
It's one of the worst possible scenarios you could think of. The good news, there is something that can be done about a potential widespread grid failure. A series of scenarios are played out in a new award-winning documentary. Joining us is the producer of Grid Down, Power Up, David Tice. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
So how vulnerable exactly are we to a pervasive grid failure?
Well, it's a major risk. And the film talks about 4 different risks. One, a physical attack, like we've seen lately in North Carolina, as well as Oregon and Washington. Also an electromagnetic pulse attack, which is probably less likely, which is a burst of a nuclear blast that provides these gamma waves that will wipe out sensitive electronics. Also a cyber attack where we can have malware embedded in our systems and essentially shut down our grid. And fourthly is a geomagnetic disturbance, or essentially a solar flare.
Okay.
And frankly, the risk of that is 100%. That's going to happen.
Yeah, and what would happen if our grid went down?
So if our grid goes down coast to coast, and if it goes down for more than 6 months, there's been a congressionally mandated commission, and it found that as many as 90% of Americans would die. This is real, and frankly, it's very, very fixable. And even though it might sound incredibly unbelievable, you think about the fact that our municipal water systems are 100% dependent upon the grid. Yeah. Think about your refrigerator, and if power was off for 2 months, and you couldn't go to Uber Eats, and if you didn't have enough food in your pantry, and if your neighbor kids were hungry, the fact that you'd be at risk from them breaking into your house and stealing your food.
Well, we certainly saw what happened with the Colonial Pipeline and the East Coast, Southeast Coast. We were without gasoline, couldn't go anywhere.
So there's so many examples, but frankly, most of those examples still have to do with isolated scenarios. So think about this. One, it's normally an isolated geographic scenario. So North Carolina, we have 45,000 homes go out. There's people in South Carolina that can help, or next door neighbors, et cetera. If it is coast to coast, where there's no real cavalry to come because everybody's wiped out. Think how much worse that would be. And then think about the fact that if it was truly 9 months and not just a few days, and then you're not going to have food resupply. Your water's going to go out. So it truly can turn into almost a zombie apocalypse, where it's this unfathomable how bad it could be.
All right. Well, don't forget, we're taking your calls. The number to join us is 877-Endtime, 877-363-8463. Doug, what do you make of that clip?
Well,
they didn't make that clip today. This is an old video. Because
this movie actually came out, I believe, last year. It's streaming now on some of the streaming channels, but it goes through scenarios of what would happen. So the frightening thing that he's talking about is like what human nature would do when he talks about if the grid went down completely for 1 month. That I think he said 1 month, 90% of the population could be killed off because of the fact that people, when they run out of food and run out of food sources, they're going to come looking for food. They're going to come to your house looking for food, and that's how some people would die. But we live in a different time now, Vince, where like my parents, they knew how to take care of themselves without having to go to the grocery store to buy things. I mean, they grew their own food, and they knew how to kill their own meat and fish and all that stuff. We've got kids nowadays that they don't know how to do anything but play video games. And so, if it comes down to having to survive, there's a lot of people that would not be able to survive just because they don't have survival skills.
No cheat codes out there in the real world.
Right. That's right. I mean, I can remember my grandfather telling me about the Depression and the way that they had to live and the things they had to do to eat. And I don't know that people could survive like that nowadays. And so, I mean, if you've got to go out and catch your own food at night to eat it and have dinner on the table, it's easier just to go over to your neighbor's house who may have food stored up and try to steal from them. And then that's what he's talking about. That's how crazy things could get. But, I mean, one of the things about it is if a grid goes down, that's something that we need to think about. So, things like we're telling people about, just be ready, be prepared for things like that. That's why we tell you this stuff. And like I said before, we're not saying that this is an attack on our country, and we know that for sure, because nobody at this point, as far as I know, knows, unless there's been something recent to come out, that this was an actual cyber attack. However, some of the other stuff that we're about to look at will make you wonder if this is not part of the plan.
Well, and we're going to bring in the China connection here, Doug, or at least I guess I should say some speculate it's the China connection. Mm-hmm. You and I don't know for certain today if China's involved at all. Yeah. We should say that up front. So we're going to be bringing that up momentarily. I do want to remind you that with elections in Taiwan, North Korea on the brink of war, Iran increasing its aggression, there's a lot of global instability as we've experienced some today, especially considering the digital world, Doug, and how people are struggling in that regard. How have you sheltered your savings and investments from potential major setbacks to this economy? Well, it's not too late to diversify on your old IRA or 401k into a physical asset, gold. Birch Gold Group can help you with that. As opposed to many other investments, gold thrives in times of uncertainty. It's an important part of diversifying your savings. So Birch Gold can help you make it part of yours by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Just visit birchgold.com/endtime for a free info kit with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers. I encourage you to arm yourself with the knowledge of diversification through precious metals. Visit birchgold.com/endtime, claim your free info kit, and protect your savings with gold. And always pray about what you and your family should do. Of course, we always recommend that above everything else, Doug. So be sure to do that today. And also, don't forget to share this video. Don't forget to comment. Give us the red heart instead of the blue thumbs up. It goes a long way in breaking through the algorithms, getting to your friends and family. The biggest and best thing you could do with helping us get the word out is share this video right now. All right, we're taking your calls to 877-ENDTIME, 877-363-8463. Give us a call. We have some open lines. Doug, where do we go to next?
Yeah, so we talked about this Chinese connection, and so I've got a story here that comes from the Border Patrol Union head. This is in Just the News, and it says that the National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd expressed concern over the recent influx of military-aged Chinese men coming across the southern border. Now, we've talked about this before, Vince, but they say that more than 30,000 Chinese people were detained by Border Patrol agents and for illegally crossing the border from January to November of 2023. Okay, so it's a huge thing because these are not just your run-of-the-mill. I mean, when we see people coming across the border in the past, it's been families, it's been fathers and mothers with their small children just trying to escape to get to a better way of life. But this is talking about what they've seen is they have seen an influx of military-aged men. So not families. And you got to think about, we talked about this before. I think it was Carrie Lake who kind of said this and brought this to our attention once before. She said a man that has a family would not leave his family to go to another country. So these guys are not family men. These are men that are coming here for a reason. And we can't just say that we are assuming that they're coming here to fight against this country. And that's what this article goes on to say. It says, the thing is we know that with this influx of these military-aged men, we've had the Chinese gangs in different areas really pick up in the United States. They said that the Chinese gangs control certain parts of our country, and they said they control drug flow, they control prostitution, and they control everything that's illegal in certain portions of this country. The Chinese gangs have control over that. So they're here and they're bringing reinforcements in, it appears. But it's, like he said, we don't want people to, think that this is something that they have to have hysteria against everyone that's from China. He's just pointing out the fact of what they're seeing in their intelligence. And he said what we have to do is allow our intelligence to do the job that it was created to do. And that's what we've got to do, is follow and observe and see what's really going on. He said some of these people could indeed just be trying to escape to a better life, but it's just strange at how many they've had come into this country lately. And so it's not just Chinese, Vince. Of course, we know we've seen video after video of fighting-age men coming from all over the place. I was talking to one of our production crew today about an interview with a Iranian guy who came in. He wasn't on the terror list, but he came in through Turkey and he got into this country. And he was telling the reporters that were interviewing him, when they asked him why he came, he said, America needs to be very careful, because you look around at all these different people from all these different countries that aren't friends to America, and they're coming across your border freely and illegally, and who knows what their intentions are.
If you go to New York, they'll even give you money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, like a $10,000 gift card and things like that. So, I mean, it's strange what's happening right now on our border, but when we come back, we've got even some more information that is, it's a little
The China connection.
Yeah, China connection.
All right,
for sure.
we'll be right back. We have open lines at 877 Endtime, 877-363-8463. Give us a call.
A voice spoke to me and said, I've got something I want to show you. I was so sure God had talked to me. And I was stunned by what I saw.
A direct fulfillment of this over 2,500-year-old prophecy. The United States will stand with Israel.
Why haven't I ever seen this before?
1/3 of humanity will die. What do these beasts symbolize?
The lion, the bear, the leopard.
The combined beast from Revelation 13 represents the end-time government of the Antichrist. Understanding the end time.
Now streaming on Endtime Plus and available to order at endtime.com/UET. Go to endtime.com/UET or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the Endtime Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end-time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Siegel here with Doug Norvell. Open lines at 877 Endtime, 877-363-8463. Don't forget, Dave and Jana Robbins will be in Gainesville, Florida on March 2nd and March 3rd. At 6 p.m. on March 2nd, Dave's going to be teaching about his brand new lesson called The Green Horseman and World War III. Definitely relevant for the times, especially since October, since the Hamas and Israel war began. It is a topic that you need to hear. We'll also be making that available soon on Endtime Plus, Doug. Don't have any dates yet, so don't call and want to know when it's coming out. We don't have a date yet, But he's going around the United States teaching that lesson, and we are going to record it and make it available on Endtime Plus. But until then, you get early access if you go to a conference near you. The next one's in Gainesville, Florida. Go to endtime.com/events to learn more about the specific details at that conference, the venue and such. You don't have to register. It's first come, first serve, and you could sit on the front row if you wanted, if you got there early enough. So check that out at endtime.com/events or give us a call at 800-ENDTIME. Now, Doug, we talked about this China connection. Now, we have some clips to share before that. Where do we go from here on the show?
So while we're talking about this, this comes from the American Thinker blog. And so this is more of an opinion piece, but it has some good information in there. And we've got a little video without sound that I believe they'll show while we're talking about it.
Okay.
But this article actually says that China prepares for war from inside the United States. So if you're watching online, you see that video there, and you can see, if you're listening on the radio, what we've got is some video of some Chinese nationals that are in the desert, and they are practicing with long rifles and pistols. So
which desert? Do we know which desert?
I don't know where that desert is. This was leaked footage from different people who are on X that released this, and these are immigrants, and there's a lot there, but there's a link to it in this article. So if you went to the American Thinker and looked for Chinese prepares for war within our the American borders, you'll see that. But it says that their security apparatus has also admitted that thousands, perhaps 10,000 of military-age males from countries that would, like every American dead, have crossed across our border. And there are countries like Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, and many others. And they also grudgingly admit that it appears plenty of these military-age males who happen to be Chinese just might be members of the Chinese military. So these may actually be military men. It says that this is kind of what their plan would be. From the Gatestone Institute, this comes from a gentleman named Gordon G. Chang, who is it says, an invaluable source of insight into the Chinese communist thinking. And so he structures in this article and tells you what he believes China would do. And it says China's Communist Party is at this moment putting in place an infrastructure in America to attack America from within. He also says that in Ridley, California, near Fresno, authorities found a secret Chinese biological weapons lab with at least 20 different pathogens in it. One of them that was included in it was the Ebola virus. He says Chinese agents, in addition to hobbling Americans with disease and gunning them down, could bomb power stations, attack military bases, start wildfires, poison reservoirs, and create terror in a dozen ways. He said that these tactics come straight out of a book called Unrestricted Warfare from 1999. It's a book written by two Chinese Air Force colonels and first published by the PLA Literature and Arts Publishing House in Beijing. So he says that these things are already being prepared here. And of course, you saw the footage where it looks like maybe they're training and that type of information there for this. So this is something that, you know, Vince, we got to look at very seriously, because we've had so many different people come into this country from all these different countries, like I was talking about before, and this article mentions that too. None of them really like the United States of America. And if they have access to guns, you remember not too long ago, we had footage where a rancher in South Texas had pictures where he was taking pictures of immigrants crossing with like AR-15s and things like that. They already had them crossing the border. So they're coming into our country armed, and those that come into this country unarmed, they're apparently hooking up with some of these gangs and getting guns, and they're able to have access to weapons. And you know that they're not buying those legally. And so
now, Doug, you just read all that information about the CCP and how the FBI is watching 300 people on the terrorist watch list. Can you remind us where that information is coming from? Is that someone talking that's a government official, or do you?
Yeah, so the article I just read is that information is coming from this gentleman Chang, who is, it says that he is an expert in the Chinese government and what they do there. It also comes from the FBI watch list.
Gotcha.
So that's where we're getting this information. Of course, that article that I just read you is from the Free Thinking, what's it called?
Okay.
American Thinker is where I got that one. So these articles are available out there. As a matter of fact, Dave Robbins posted this article I just read to you on his Facebook page not too long ago, and I think it's even on our Endtime page on Facebook. So
now,
you have access where you can go there. But the gentleman, Gordon G. Chang, he is at the Gatestone Institute. He's the one that gave us that information from that.
Perfect. Now, the FBI director actually had some comments about this a few weeks ago.
Yes, he did.
And I think we're going to get into that now.
Yeah, if you're ready, let's do it.
Whatever you say.
All right.
We got a video clip we're going to play first?
Yeah, we're going to play a video clip.
All right, check it out.
Tonight, the FBI director sounding the alarm about Chinese efforts to attack American power grids, transportation systems, and communications networks.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities.
And Christopher Wray announcing a major takedown of a Chinese hacking operation on American soil, dubbed Volt Typhoon.
Working with our partners, the FBI ran a court-authorized on-network operation to shut down Volt Typhoon and the access it enabled. Steps China was taking, in other words, to find and prepare to destroy or degrade the civilian critical infrastructure that keeps us safe and prosperous.
Wray and other officials say China poses the world's greatest cyber threat, and they warn that Americans remain vulnerable. U.S. Cybersecurity Chief Jen Easterly describing the devastating impact of a potential massive Chinese cyber attack.
Telecommunications going down so people can't use their cell phone. People start getting sick from polluted water. Trains get derailed. Air traffic control system, port control systems are malfunctioning. This is truly an everything, everywhere, all at once scenario.
Easterly said China believes that sort of cyber attack would crush any American will to defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. In a statement to NBC News, a Chinese government spokesman denied China hacks into foreign networks, calling it irresponsible criticism.
Okay, so Vince, in that video, we see the FBI director talking about this cyber attack possibility, and that they've already shut down one hacking group within the United States. And so this is something that is happening right now. It's why it doesn't make it hard to imagine that this is a cyber attack, especially when so many different divisions. We even saw some healthcare agencies. They were telling people don't even log into your healthcare login today because you could be hit with a cyber attack because they were being attacked. So there's different things. If it's a healthcare agency that's being attacked, that doesn't sound like a solar flare to me. Sounds more like a cyber attack. They said that the way that they're doing a lot of this is through, you probably know more about this than I do, is malware or something like that. What's it called?
Malware?
Malware, yeah. So I don't even know what that is, Vince, but they said that that's how a lot of this happens.
You don't want it.
You don't want that, Vince says.
You don't want this to happen, what happened today.
And so the thing about it is, if they say that this would be one way to deter us from wanting to protect Taiwan, okay? That's a big thing because we know that that's one thing our government has always said they would do, just like how we're helping Israel right now. We have told Taiwan that we would help protect Taiwan in case of an invasion by China. We know China has toyed with that idea over and over since the Biden administration took over. They've done flyovers, they've done big military buildups off their shores to keep people in constant terror that they're getting ready to do this. So China thinks that if they can do this, it will make America not even want to get involved in that because we will be so frightened and terrified for these cyber attacks, or maybe we'll be hit so hard that we're unable to help.
Well, Doug, I sent you a tweet earlier from Marco Rubio.
Yes.
And he said, I don't know the cause of the AT&T outage. Of course, at this point, most thought it was just AT&T. But he said, I do know it will be 100 times worse when China launches a cyber attack on America on the eve of a Taiwan invasion, and it won't be just cell service they hit, it will be your power, your water, and your bank.
Yeah.
That's from Marco Rubio, which I don't think he has a history of trying to be a sensationalist or scare people about things. So I found that to be an interesting a tweet from him, especially tying in China to this. And that clip we just played is from 3 weeks ago, Doug.
Yeah. So they've been talking about it for a while. And apparently in another article I saw earlier, they had already toyed around with so many different things, the cyber attacks in different areas, that's how they caught this group within the United States, is because they had already begun to target some people. So you think about this, folks, because everything that we've got is online right now. I mean, we do everything. We live our lives pretty much through, social media. And, we're putting out a lot of information about ourselves. And so, like you said before, could this be a test run of an EMP? I mean, that's an opinion of a lot of people, is that's exactly what this was. Now,
well, Doug, remember the balloons that were floating all across the United States? Those were just weather balloons, right?
Yeah, that's what they said.
That was the initial report. And how many days, I don't remember now, I think it was like 3 days. We just let that thing float over all across the United States before we did anything about it. It makes me wonder
how much
what's happening
data
today.
they were gathering.
Not only that, but also what they reported then was very inaccurate initially. And here we are now, and can I trust the information? I'm not exactly sure. One thing that we know we can trust, Doug, and this is the best assurance that we've ever had in the history of mankind, is God. We can trust God above everything. And we look to the Scriptures, and we find peace and comfort knowing that if you're on His side, you don't have to worry about all this stuff. Now, you might have some discomfort. God hasn't called us to comfort. Newsflash, open your Bible and read what happened to Jesus, what happened to the disciples. God hasn't called us to this comfort lifestyle that you might hear about with the latest televangelist.
Right.
Now, we talk about prosperity, of course. I believe God wants to bless us, and I pray prosperity on my friends and people's lives that I'm connected to in every aspect of their life. At the same time, we know it ain't always apple pie and Bluebell ice cream.
Oh, man. That's true.
It's not. We go through hard times sometimes. So we're not exempt from tribulations.
That's right.
But we can trust God, and we'll talk more about that on the other side of the break. We'll talk more. We'll get to more calls on the other side of the break as well. Stephen from Georgia will be coming to you soon. Stay tuned for more. Give us a call at 877-INTIME, 877-363-8463.
They that understand what is taking place will instruct many.
Except a man is born again, he can enter or see the kingdom of God.
I don't care what label you've been given or what label you've given yourself. You are essential. You still matter.
This is a journey, and when we get to the other side of that, that's where our prize is. That's where our reward is.
Endtime is not going anywhere.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Open lines at 877-INTIME, 877-363-8463. What do you know about this SOS notice that a lot of people got this morning? If you have any technical background, or you're an engineer in some way, or you know anything about this stuff, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love your questions about the subject and how it might connect to Bible prophecy. Give us a call, 877-363-8463. 3. Don't forget also that Dave and Jana Robbins will be in Gainesville, Florida, March 2nd and 3rd. You can go to endtime.com/events to learn more about that conference, or you can give us a call at 800 Endtime. We'll be happy to help you out over the phone. It's definitely a conference you want to make plans to attend. There'll be people flying in, driving for hours away, and then, of course, a lot of local people from Gainesville. It's typically how a conference will work. It's first come, first served, so you can have a front row seat if you get there early enough. Of course, you'll be able to meet Dave and Jana Robbins. They are not, they don't behave like, Taylor Swift or someone that might be a
thank goodness
mainstream celebrity. They're not going to sneak in the back and you don't get to talk to them. They're going to be there early. You can say hello. They'll have a conversation with you, and of course, they would love to meet you. So make plans to come to Gainesville, Florida. Doug, we ready to go to the phones?
Let's do it.
Stephen's in Georgia. Stephen, welcome to the Endtime Show.
Hey, yes. Thanks for taking my call. I was observant this morning when I woke up and I saw the SOS thing on my phone. And first I thought it was just my phone because my wife, her phone, nothing was wrong with it. She still had service. And then when I went to work, some of the people at work, they had service. So I didn't really know what was going on. And before 8 o'clock, I noticed there was an article on the computer about it. So after I thought about it, I thought it was kind of odd having the article come out so early in the morning explaining what was going on. But then when you said it started about 4, could be understandable. But then when I went down the road, I went out for some deliveries, and I'd go through areas where I'd have service. So I found that kind of odd too, in regards. But also, you were talking about the New York, the movie about New York, and it's happening. Have you ever seen St. John's Cathedral? They have pillars around the cathedral that has events displayed on them, and one of them looks like a apocalyptic event or a terrorist event, something like that, that happens with New York.
Well, I mean, there's, these subliminal messages that they put in things, it doesn't surprise me. But so let me ask you this, Stephen, because once you realized, okay, that this phone's down, I'm getting this SOS situation, were you ever at a point to where in your mind before you saw anything about it, did you think of it being just a random thing, or did you think, oh, this could be the beginning of something? What went through your mind personally?
I thought it could have been something, or thought it was nothing. I don't know. I really look for, before I get worried, because my faith and trust is in Jesus. Right. I look for more stuff to really go chaotic before I begin to worry about something. I kind of feel like this was, like you said, a predictive, a preamble to possibly something more later down the line. But as far as me, it was just business as usual. Go about my day. No phone for today. But
well, I know to the younger generation, because I've talked to a couple of people that the younger generation, it was kind of a blow to them because they are not used to being without being able to use that cell phone and like the GPS and things like that we were talking about before. And they didn't think anything about it other than this is just an inconvenience for me. My phone's not working right now. Some people told me that they went to the AT&T store thinking that it was just an AT&T problem. And when they got to the AT&T store, there was a line around the building of people wanting to get in there and find out what was going on. And so, you think about that. It was more just an inconvenience for folks. But, when we look at things like we said today, we're not really saying that that's what this is, but we want to bring people's attention to look for things like this as, we move forward. Who knows what's going to happen, here in the near future.
Yeah, and have things in order for when things do go bad.
Yes, sir.
You're not left standing there trying to figure things out. You kind of got a beat on things already.
Yes, sir. And we are in the end time, so it's no better time than right now for everybody to really start seeking and getting in the Word of God and having that relationship with the Lord and making sure they're born again and they know where they're going if something were to happen. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Stephen, thanks for your call. We appreciate it very much. God bless you. We have open lines at 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Give us a call. Doug, I would reiterate how important it is for people to have a paper Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a paper version of Understanding the End Time book. Get you a paper Bible, get you that book, and there's no AT&T or China or whatever else that can stop you from accessing that if you have it right there on your nightstand or in your living room or wherever you're going to keep it.
Yeah.
So get you a paper Bible, get you a paper version of Understand the End Time at endtime.com/UET, and be sure you're equipped to maintain your spiritual well-being, and that's certainly what you need through the Bible. And of course, Understand the End Time can help you navigate these end times. Doug, I forgot to bring this up to you all day today.
Uh-oh.
This is something that I've been meaning to mention. So you're going to hear this. I'm sure you've already heard it, but maybe it's going to be a surprise. Did you hear about Elon Musk's tweet last night?
No.
He said, "This is a test." And he made the tweet to where no one could comment. So like, I guess it's a post now, sorry. But people can reply on X, and there's that whole thread, and you can scroll down and see people's responses. He made it to where no one could do that. You can do that. So this is just a post on X that says, "This is a test." No, you can retweet it, repost it, you can heart it, but you cannot comment. And it's had 47 million views.
Interesting.
And of course, everyone's going, "Is Elon Musk the answer?" No, they're not doing that. But they're going,
right.
What did Elon know last night?
Yeah.
And was he connected to all this?
It's very interesting. I mean, he knows that his post work on Twitter, so he wasn't saying this is a test to see if my post works, right?
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And another thing I saw on Twitter today was connected to Project Bluebird.
Yeah, tell us about that. That was interesting to me when you were
I don't know enough
that.
to talk about it in detail, but basically it's connected to the CIA looking into citizens, and apparently it was called Project Bluebird, and it's interesting because of the CIA's connection with formerly Twitter, and of course their logo was a bluebird, and so people are speculating some things, but nonetheless, Elon has gone in and changed that. There's no Bluebird now. It's called X.
Very
so
interesting.
Who knows what's
Maybe
going on
he has
there,
some
Doug.
insider information.
You never. I guarantee he does, but you never know what it is.
Well, that's
One
true.
day.
One thing I wanted to tell everybody about, because we talked about this before and we went there today, so this is a good page to reference for people if something like this happens again, or I guess I should say when something like this happens again. There's a web page called Down Detector. Down Detector. If you go to that website, it shows you all the systems that were down today. It gives the whole list of everybody that was affected by this, but then it's an ongoing thing. So anytime there's an outage, if you were just having one of those days where your internet went out, you can check on that page and see if your internet supplier is one that is down and there's reports about it going down. It also gives you graphics where you can pull it up and you can see how many people have reported that particular system down. And so you can see how many people it's affecting. So I think that that's a good tool to have. It's called Down Detector. So everybody should probably check that page out and just go there. So it's just something beneficial for you to have in your your information.
Absolutely.
So,
we ready to go back to the phones?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, we're going to go to Missouri. Mark's watching there. Mark, welcome to the End Time Show.
Hey. Well, I'm technically challenged too, Doug. It's a good thing you got that kid next to you, Vince, that can kind of straighten you out on malware and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I don't know, nobody's mentioned this, that everybody's cell phone runs off the internet. And depending on who you're talking to and what you're doing, you have to go through the internet to do it. So that's why some people's stuff was connected and some people's wasn't, depending on where it's going to make the connection.
Well, you know, they use the internet connection, which would be when you're connected to Wi-Fi, and then there's cellular data through the cellular towers. And so that's a little more old school. Of course, now we've got LTE and 5G plus and all this stuff. But yeah, my phone worked just fine on Wi-Fi, and you can do Wi-Fi calling. So the problem, I think, for most of the people I talked to was, especially here in Dallas, a lot of people need GPS to navigate. Well, they didn't have that option, and so they're GPSing it from home, screenshotting the instructions on their phone because they don't have a printer either. Of course, I don't like paper, Doug. I don't print hardly anything.
Got rid of those
so that's
things.
what people are doing. They're screenshotting the instructions and then taking their phone with them with no service to navigate. So the GPS thing, I think, was the biggest thing for a lot of people I'm connected to.
Yeah.
Well, I never use Wi-Fi because that's where all this government connections and crooks and everybody in. I have unlimited, and the big word is untethered. They all say unlimited, but whenever you run out of the whatever data you're paying for, it starts jerking around, whatever. But I have untethered because I've been with T-Mobile for like 28 years before it was even T-Mobile, and I got a special deal. I'm special, I guess, but they still do limit you because they don't want somebody getting in there in my situation and running a business and using all kinds of data, you know. But the tethered part is the part that nobody ever hears about. But Wi-Fi is terrible. That's where you get all your crooks.
Right.
Well, there you go. Appreciate
God
your
bless you
insight,
guys.
Mark.
I love you.
Thank you, Mark.
God bless you. Love you. Appreciate your call. Doug, we're wrapping it up. We've only got a little more than a minute left here.
Well,
how do you wrap up a show like today?
Well, this is what I did today. I went to Psalms and I found Psalm 27 and just a few verses there. Vince, will you close this out by reading that, because it gives you some hope there even when you're surrounded.
The 27th Psalm, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, come up upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though a host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I will be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple.
Yeah, so, you know, David wrote that psalm when he was running, you know, for his life basically, but he never lost his faith, and that's what we got to remember is do not lose your faith. Our faith isn't in technology, it's not in the world, it's in Jesus Christ.
Amen. Doug, this hour flew by today. Maybe we need that extra hour. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Do we need it or not? I don't know if the people have spoken yet, Doug, so let us know. Don't forget, you can go to watch.endtime.com, endtime.com, to participate in thousands of hours of content. We've got videos, we've got articles, there's all sorts of content available that's totally free because of generous partners like you. There's a lot of people that give every single month at endtime.com/give. And of course, we need your continued support and increased support as we navigate these end times to get the word out and expand this message throughout the world. So consider giving, follow the leading of the Spirit in that regard at endtime.com/give. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.